Hello there, welcome to Planet America. I'm John Barron.
And I'm Licciardello.
This week, Democrats descend on Chicago with a new nominee and a new confidence.
We're going to get the latest from the DNC with Senator Heidi Heitkamp. But first...
The Democratic National Convention is underway with what everybody's agreed was Joe Biden
passing the torch.
Pass the torch moment.
He's expected to officially pass the torch to his vice president.
The man who passed the torch to his dynamic and loyal number two
handed over this torch to Kamala Harris.
Close enough to make it into a montage, and everybody seemed to think that Biden passing the torch would be bittersweet.
It's going to be a bittersweet evening tonight.
Well, it's got to be a very bittersweet moment for him.
It's going to be a bittersweet moment for him.
First to pass the torch, though, was Hillary Clinton, the only other woman ever nominated for the presidency by a major American political party. She seemed to be relishing once again taking on the man who defeated her for the White House in 2016.
So it is no surprise, is it, that he is lying about Kamala's record? He's mocking her name and her laugh. Sounds familiar. But we have him on the run now.
And the one making him run, Kamala Harris, even made a surprise early appearance.
This November, we will come together and declare with one voice, as one people, we are moving forward.
But the main event on the first night was the poignant, indeed bittersweet, appearance of President Joe Biden. A 4.5-minute standing ovation, Biden wiping tears from his eyes after introductions from his wife Jill and daughter Ashley.
And tears from the president.
Just a month ago, Biden himself was scheduled to appear on the fourth night of the convention to accept the Democratic Party presidential nomination. Instead, after night one, he departed to serve out the final 5 months of his presidency, but not before defending his record, praising his successor and setting something straight.
It's been the honor of my lifetime to serve as your president. I love the job, but I love my country more. I love my country more. And all this talk about how I'm angry at all those people who said I should step down, that's not true.
They say that was the main event, John, but it was on at 12:30 in the morning.
Yep.
At least on the Eastern Seaboard. By contrast, what the Democrats wanted to make sure everyone watched right in the middle of prime time was a section about abortion, featuring survivor Hadley Duval, amongst others.
I was raped by my stepfather after years of sexual abuse. At age 12, I took my first pregnancy test, and it was positive. That was the first time I was ever told, you have options. I can't imagine not having a choice. But today, that's the reality for many women and girls across the country because of Donald Trump's abortion bans. He calls it a beautiful thing. What is so beautiful about a child having to carry her parents' child?
Pretty harrowing stuff. And look, it's probably not 100% fair to call red state abortion laws Trump's abortion bans, but that was the message Democrats really wanted to get out on night one, I'd say.
Yeah, and they got it out loud and clear. There was a lot of love in the room for night two's headliner earlier today. That was former President Barack Obama.
Actually, a bit too much love from some quarters, I'd say, John. Probably tamped down that love just a little bit, Chuck Schumer, yeah, just a little bit.
He's loving himself. You know, it was 20 years ago this year that a DNC speech first made Barack Obama a political megastar. 16 years ago, he was first nominated by the Democratic Party for president. So what would he say today? What new and inspiring words would he find to sum up this unique moment?
The torch has been passed.
Really, Barack? Actually, there was a lot more to it than that. A quite moving tribute to Joe Biden.
History will remember Joe Biden as an outstanding president who defended democracy at a moment of great danger. And I am proud to call him my president, but I am even prouder to call him my friend.
And he was full of praise for Kamala Harris with a slightly familiar refrain.
And Kamala will be that president. Yes, she can. Yes, she can.
And then Obama combined criticising Trump and promoting Harris together for this.
We do not need 4 more years of bluster and bumbling and chaos. We have seen that movie before, and we all know that the sequel is usually worse. America's ready for a new chapter. America's ready for a better story. We are ready for a President Kamala Harris.
So far, so good for Democrats midway through their convention. Still, the signs of the hasty transition from Biden to Harris are there for all to see, from the DNC logo, which was clearly designed to echo Biden's campaign logo with a 3-striped letter E there. And then there's the Democratic policy platform itself, which wrongly names President Biden as their candidate still. And that's because the party formally voted to approve the platform document on July 16th, 5 days before Biden dropped out. And while the Democratic Party was mostly putting on a united front, a few dozen uncommitted delegates opposed to the Biden administration's support for Israel in their ongoing war in Gaza turned their backs on him in silent protest during Biden's speech. While outside the convention centre, thousands have joined in pro-Palestinian protests. We last spoke to our next guest, former Democratic Senator Heidi Heitkamp, on June the 28th, just a few minutes after that first presidential debate between Biden and Donald Trump came to an end. And in those moments, she gave us quite an insight into the concerns that she and other senior Democrats were feeling.
He just seemed tired and not really up to the task. And he had one job, to basically convince the public that he was ready to be president 4 more years. And, you know, as much as I love him, I don't think he met that task. I don't think he met that bar.
55 days later, and a lot has changed. Democrats have nominated Vice President Kamala Harris instead of Biden. So, how is Heidi Heitkamp feeling about all of that? Let's ask her. Senator, welcome back to Planet America.
I love doing this with you guys.
So when we were speaking last, just after that debate, you did suggest and name a number of possible alternatives to Joe Biden. You did not suggest or name Kamala Harris. Did that reflect the fact that you did not think that she would be a good replacement? Was something else going on?
No, not necessarily. I think that I thought if he had gotten out early when we talked, that there would be more competition, and there probably would have been. But given the timing of the competition, or given the timing of the announcement, it really became very, very difficult. And a lot of people were saying, well, this shouldn't be a coronation, me included. And what I would tell you is it wasn't. And you know why? Because no one ran against her. And so you can't say that somehow this was a coronation if she had no competition. And so I think that she has surprised a lot of people, probably me included, with how well she has launched her campaign, the kind of work that she's doing. I'm thrilled with her choice for vice president. I think that is really well informed, and I think it has some risk to it, because she could have chosen the governor of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is huge. But she went with someone that she thought would help her in rural America, someone that she really likes, and you can tell that. This is a lot about chemistry. And so she really, in my opinion, has had a flawless rollout, and that good on her. She's running a great campaign.
Now, Heidi, you're obviously from North Dakota. Tim Walz is from your part of the world. So do you have any particular insights into him?
Well, it's interesting. Tim Walz is a friend, and when his name started coming up as a potential VP nominee, Tim called me, the governor called me and said, would I talk about his work in rural America and how important that would be to the ticket? I was thrilled to do it. I did a lot of interviews with national media across the board talking about what Tim Walz would bring to the ticket. And I believe that by putting someone who has been one of us his entire life, a school teacher, somebody who is not wealthy, somebody who has a lived experience that is so common in rural America, a hunter, a fisherman, a member of the National Guard, that his story would resonate. And one of the arguments we always get in rural America is you guys just represent the coastal elites. You don't even understand how we live in rural America. And so we're really excited about Tim being there. And I hope they put him on a bus and he goes to every county fair just to talk to rural people about how important it is to continue the work that the Biden administration started on rebuilding rural America.
And Heidi, it does seem that we're seeing, at least on our TV screens, a lot of enthusiasm amongst Democrats in Chicago this week. How would you characterise the collective mood?
I would use a word called pride. I think Democrats are really proud of Joe Biden and the tough decision that he made. They're proud that he's their president and that he is selfless in terms of what he wants to do for the country. You saw the pride last night on the floor when Hillary Clinton was speaking, the pride that she was our nominee. She didn't make it, but I mean, my God, what a speech she gave. And everybody's talking about how Joe Biden passed the torch last night to a younger generation. Hillary passed the torch to a younger generation of women leaders. And that has people so proud, so emotional. The excitement on the floor, it is just exuberance and pride that Democrats are feeling. And I think a excitement to go out and work really hard to win this election, because now they believe it is a winnable campaign.
Now, you said that the Harris handover has been surprisingly successful. Why do you think Harris seems to have been so well received by the public in the last few weeks?
You know, I think she didn't have a strong image one way or the other. And a lot of it, you know, as you saw, was negative. And once you saw the separation from President Biden, you know, all of a sudden she could stand on her own and she could make her own case. And she looked like a winner. But I will tell you, I believe that her secret weapon has been the joy that she exudes when she's out there, the happiness that she has, the thrill she has to be leading this team and to be out there meeting people and talking about what she cares about. She looks like she's having fun. And I think I've said this to you guys before. Looking like you're having fun is really important in politics in this country. And you put that against the former president, Donald Trump, and he is very crabby. He's very grouchy. He's complaining. He comes out and he scowls. He doesn't look like he's having fun at all. And that's not been the Donald Trump of the last two cycles. And so I think some of the exuberance and enthusiasm for Donald Trump is waning. And I think he feels that. And he's always somebody who has fed off a crowd, and he's not getting the kind of call and response that he's gotten in the past.
Senator Heidi Heitkamp, thanks for being with us from Chicago on Planet America.
Okay, take care, you guys.
Landing a man.
It's happened before. The Democratic Party gathering in Chicago for their convention to endorse a vice president, one handed the nomination by the party elite without running in the primaries after the unpopular sitting president was pressured to step aside. 56 years ago, the war in Vietnam had deeply divided the Democratic Party, and peace activists lost their champion when Robert Kennedy was killed campaigning for the presidency in June of 1968.
That's it, Raper. Get it. Get the gun, Raper. Okay, now hold on to the guy. Hold on to him.
With Kennedy dead and President Lyndon Johnson not seeking re-election, party bosses and the delegates they controlled fell in behind Vice President Hubert Humphrey, who maintained the Johnson administration's support for the Vietnam War effort.
I say to this great convention tonight and to this great nation of ours, I am ready to lead our country.
When Humphrey was nominated in Chicago in August of 1968, there were punch-ups on the convention floor while outside the police themselves rioted, attacking anti-war demonstrators on the streets. Protesters chanted, "The whole world is watching," and they were right. The chaos was carried live on TV and into the living rooms of America.
That violence breeds counter-violence, and it cannot be condoned, whatever the source.
Many voters were shocked and turned to Republican Richard Nixon, who won the White House with a promise of peace, law and order.
Mr. Nixon is appearing in the doorway now, preceded by members of his staff and members of the Secret Service.
Democrats will be hoping that divisions over the war in the Middle East and another shocking and unpredictable political season don't boil over in Chicago this year as they did in 1968. In the run-up to this week's Democratic convention, Vice President Harris began rolling out her policy platform with a speech in Raleigh, North Carolina, outlining what she's calling the opportunity economy.
As president, I will be laser focused on creating opportunities for the middle class that advance their economic security, stability, and dignity. Together, we will build what I call an opportunity economy.
So, what's in the opportunity economy? An expanded $6,000 child tax credit, tax incentives for builders to produce 3 million housing units in 4 years, up to $25,000 in first home buyers assistance for renters, an expansion of Medicare's $35 insulin price cap for all Americans, and, most controversially, she wants to work with Congress to ban price gouging on food and other groceries. Over on CNN, Van Jones was pretty happy about that one.
Thank goodness we're finally hearing from a Democrat aggressively on the price gouging.
But others are not so sure. Former Obama economic advisor Jason Furman says that price controls would take away the incentive for higher levels of production, which works to push prices back down again. He warns this is not sensible policy and there's no upside. Even less of a fan, former President Donald Trump, who's likened this policy to communism.
Comrade Kamala Harris is terrible for our country. She is a communist, always has been a communist, and always will be a communist under her leadership. The USA will fail and fail quickly. We will not let that happen.
Although there is certainly evidence that large grocery chains cashed in on COVID-era supply chain problems, the Federal Trade Commission concluding in a report in March that some firms appear to have used rising costs as an opportunity to further hike prices, and that profits remain elevated even as supply chain pressures have eased.
Yeah, there's certainly some evidence of price gouging during the pandemic period. These are the net profits for grocery stores heading up from 2020 to 2022, as you can see, but they've since returned to the levels we saw in the 2010s. Now, most economists don't blame gouging as the main cause of the huge food inflation levels of 2022. Mind you, grocery store chains like Kroger's did not help themselves much with quotes like this.
The CEO of Kroger recently said,
"A little bit of inflation is always good in our business."
But whether you blame price gouging for inflation or not, food inflation is definitely not a thing now. Grocery price inflation was enormous for a while there, but it's been pretty close to zero for the whole of 2024. Even if we break grocery prices into categories, $100 of cereal and bakery foods 18 months ago still buys about $100 today. Same with meat and poultry, same with fruit and veggies, same with dairy. Dairy prices have actually gone down. So it's a bit strange that Harris feels compelled to address a problem that no longer exists. Even stranger is that the whole news media seems to have interpreted her policy as price controls. But I don't think they are. Harris's press release said that she'd advanced the first ever federal ban on price gouging on food and groceries. Okay, what does that mean? Well, she said she'd set clear rules of the road to stop corporations from running up excessive profits on food and groceries, all right? So what are these rules? They'd be strict new penalties on companies that break the rules. Well, that's all very vague. This is what she said in her speech.
My plan will include new penalties for opportunistic companies that exploit crises and break the rules.
Okay, so that seems to actually be about companies exploiting crises, like pandemics or hurricanes, much like Trump also cracked down on price gouging during the pandemic. But that has nothing to do with price controls. Still, if you're not going to release much policy detail or conduct interviews and press conferences, I guess the press are going to get confused once in a while. So this might be on Harris. But will it work?
It's really hard for me to imagine any form of legislation that preserves the spirit of what she's proposing that would not be, at best do nothing, at worst cause a lot of harm.
That's Washington Post economist Catherine Rampell there. So why is Harris pushing this idea? Blueprint Polling has a theory that when you ask people about solutions for inflation, their most favoured policy is lowering interest rates with 86% approval, but doing that would actually be inflationary. Next, they support lowering taxes. That's also inflationary. And next, on 81%, they support prosecuting companies for price gouging. That's the policy. So even if this does nothing, this policy is actually really popular. Blueprint says not only does it have 81% approval, but 84% approval amongst independents and 86% amongst young voters and black voters, the people that Harris is trying most to reach. But what about the other policies that John mentioned? Providing families with $6,000 per newborn child? That could be handy. Although the timing is a little unfortunate because J.D. Vance literally proposed the child tax credit be raised to $5,000 just this week. Although I'm not suggesting it's a rip-off because the Dems have been pushing these payments for ages. Economists also are not thrilled about that proposed $25,000 in down payment assistance for houses, targeted at those who have paid their rent on time for 2 years and are buying their first home. Sounds great, but the economists are concerned this won't increase housing supply, it will just lead to prices going up by $25,000. But J.D. Vance had a far sillier concern. He said Harris wants to give $25,000 to illegal aliens to buy American homes, and she should be making it easier and more affordable for American citizens to buy homes. That's obviously the aim of this policy, though. Finally, a policy that hasn't gotten much coverage, but I actually thought had a lot of potential from that speech, cancelling medical debt for millions of Americans through the government buying their debt and then forgiving it. They could definitely do that. That's legal, it's affordable, and it would help both people and the economy. So I think that's a nice idea. But how much would all of this cost put together? Well, it's all too vague to be sure, but some have estimated it would cost about $1.7 trillion for a decade, and Harris says that will be paid for through higher corporate and income taxes for the wealthy. So a bit of a mixed bag there, John. Still not much detail, to be honest, but it looks pretty good compared to Trump's cost of living plan.
On my first day back in the Oval Office, I will sign an executive order directing every cabinet secretary and agency head to use every tool and authority at their disposal to defeat inflation.
Okay, so his plan seems to be to ask someone else. Great.
We're laughing Kamala. Laughing Kamala. L-A-F-F-I-N apostrophe. Laughing.
We're going to evict crazy Kamala. We have a new victim to defeat. Lion Kamala Harris. Lion. L-Y-I-N apostrophe.
Trump has been referring to Harris on social media as Kamala.
Call her Kamala the Comrade.
Princess Kamala. Copycat Kamala.
Talk about rerun Kamala's.
You had it right. You almost got it.
I will say Kamala's name any way that I want to.
I recommend Scamala. Also, I think Kamaliar would probably be good.
Now these activists have started calling the vice president Killer Kamala.
Kamala Harris. That means so bad.
I think I'm entitled to personal attacks. She certainly attacks me personally. She actually called me weird.
Kamala. Kamala. You know why? Because she's dumb.
Kamala Harris. You know, it's interesting. Nobody really knows her last name. If you ask people, Do you know what her last name is? Nobody has any idea what it is. Harris. It's like Harris. I don't know.
Several high-profile Republicans have been urging former President Trump to focus on policy differences, the economy and inflation, and stop talking about Kamala Harris and her race.
She was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black.
And her general appearance.
I'm better looking than she is.
And her laugh.
That's the laugh of a crazy person, I will tell you, if you haven't known her. It's a crazy. She's crazy.
Trump's former Republican rival, Nikki Haley, bird brain, had this suggestion.
But the campaign is not going to win talking about crowd sizes. It's not going to win talking about what race Kamala Harris is. It's not going to win talking about whether she's dumb. You can't win on those things. The American people are smart. Treat them like they're smart. And former Republican House Speaker Kevin McCarthy also had some advice for Trump.
Stop questioning the size of her crowds.
And even Chachi's getting worried.
Once he goes off the rails, it becomes confusing, and I wish I could talk to him and say, just stick to policy.
And the Harris campaign is absolutely baiting Trump, sending out this clip of people leaving a part-full Trump rally in Pennsylvania this week, to which Trump sent this response on Truth Social.
The top video is the one that Kamala put out. The bottom is what it actually looked like. She's a liar and shouldn't even be allowed to run for office.
Trump then claimed to have turned away over 11,000 people from the rally, to which the Harris campaign replied,
"No, Donald Trump, we posted a video of your empty rally while you were speaking. Americans are tired of your lies and your slur-filled delusions. It's getting old."
Oh, ouch.
Yeah, look, the Trump campaign still hasn't really settled since Harris got into the race, I think. He just brought one of his 2016 campaign managers, Corey Lewandowski, back earlier this week. So what happens then to Chris LaCivita, the current alpha man on the campaign? One of Lewandowski's friends said, it's like Trump wants them to kill each other so he doesn't have to actually fire anyone. Meanwhile, they're trying to get Trump to focus on delivering clear messages rather than all this rubbish, but I'm not sure it's working. This is supposedly Trump's economic speech.
And this isn't a rally, but this is a different kind of a thing. Today we're going to talk about one subject, and then we'll start going back to the other, because we sort of love that, don't we? But it's an important, they say it's the most important subject. I'm not sure it is, but they say it's the most important.
Maybe don't talk down your own speech. By the way, in that economy chat, Trump just spoke about the economy for 16% of the time.
That's good.
Not a lot of focus. Their message is in flux as well. Trump's been trying this line recently.
So she is saying when she gets in, she's in now. And especially with Biden, because, I mean, he's not in the best of shape. But you know what? She's in there now. She can do anything she wants. And she's still saying, if you elect me, I'll do this, I'll do... Why didn't she do it?
Obviously, she can't do everything she wants. She's the vice president. But anyway, J.D. Vance seems to be trying to attack the joy from the Harris campaign.
When she laughs during a speech, remember that there are American families crying this very day because they cannot afford groceries. When she does these rallies and does these events and does these fake dances, remember that there are parents who lost their children to drugs or violence who will never see their children move again, much less dance again.
Yeah, I'm not sure attacking people showing happiness is really a winning message, but look, at least they are working hard. Up against the DNC convention this week, Trump talked on Monday about the economy, allegedly. On Tuesday about crime. On Wednesday, he's talking about national security. On Thursday about immigration. And on Friday, he's talking about no taxes on tips, at least to the extent that he sticks to those topics.
At least 16% of those topics. That's it for another trip to Planet America. We'll see you back here at the same time next week.
And don't forget the Fireside Chat this Friday night on ABC News and anytime on iView, YouTube and Facebook.
Bye-bye.